In the legal world, there is a combination of forces that feed a corrupt and suffocating legal system for attorneys. Law schools, law professionals, judges, and even the firms themselves for whom you work create a system, a matrix, if you will, that is nothing like what you thought when you passed the bar exam. The purpose of this podcast is to help you escape this legal matrix, leading you out of the proverbial desert to be free of the bondage of the matrix. Hosted by Bryce D. Nyer, attorney at law with over 30 years experience in the trenches of civil and criminal litigation at the state, federal, and international levels. He's a highly accomplished and resourceful legal professional, a true master of his craft, and he's here to help you get your life back. Here's your host, Bryce D. Nyer.
Hey, it's Bryce D. Nyer here in the great state of North Carolina, here in the city of Fayetteville. We're again in here, escape from the legal matrix, an attorney's exodus from legal bondage. And what are we going to talk about tonight, whatever time zone you're in? We're going to talk about taking on the system. Yeah, taking on the system. What does that mean to you? I can tell you what it means to me. I mean, let's think about this. We go through life from when we're born, and especially, we're taking on life. We're taking on the system. But once you get into school and sports and dating and marrying, and then in business, you've got to deal with systems. Now, that system may be your profession, maybe the system of marriage, the system of worship. There are many different systems. But the one we're going to talk about today in particular is the legal matrix and the legal system. Yeah, the legal profession, if profession is the appropriate word. So what does that really entail? Well, let's think about this. For all of you that are currently law students, when you thought about applying and you took the LSAT, that began the commencement in the legal matrix. You began to take on the legal system. You had to take a standardized test and outperform, and outdo thousands of other applicants across the nation. And all of the other materials that went into your application was, again, you're essentially taking on the system to show them that you are qualified and that you are really essentially the better student, the better person to be accepted. And once you got accepted into law school and you chose the one you wanted to, it wasn't over then. It was just beginning. That was the beginning. I'll tell you how it was the beginning. Because you're registered for your classes, you look to the left, you look to the right, ahead of you, behind you, and everybody there was part of the legal matrix. Then you have your professors, you have all the faculty, the deans of law school, and you are competing with everything and everyone, and you are taking them on. You may not think you are, but you are. And see, this is where it begins. This is really the beginning, the challenges. Because in law school, nobody really cares about you. The professors don't. Your classmates don't, because people that fail out, they're like, just one less future lawyer to compete with. So you're constantly battling. You're constantly taking on the system to make the grades, to be as close to the top of the class as you can. And then ultimately, by the time you get to the third year, you don't even care about the academics, or the system of law school, except to graduate, of course. Now you got to deal with the system of the state bar, because you've already put in your application and they're scrutinizing it, checking everything, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, looking for a little thing why perhaps you should not be admitted. And when you study for the bar exam, again, it's a challenge. That summer, if you take it in July, it's usually in July and February of each year, it's twice a year, and you only want to take it once. Okay, luckily for me, I only had to take it one time, pass first time. Okay, I can't tell you how relieved I was. How many beers got pounded that night when I got the letter of congratulations. So you're taking on, at this point, the bar examiners, again, the system. and you're waiting patiently. You've taken the essay portion, and then you've taken the multiple guess, because it's a multiple guess, not a multiple choice. And that's what most states do. You have the essay and the multiple guess. So now you're waiting, and you've taken on that system, the academic system. And then you get your letter, and hopefully you've passed the bar exam, if that's in fact what you want to do. Okay, next step up, applying for the job. Now you're really taking on the system. You're taking on the legal world. Why? Because thousands of law students, graduates, those that pass the bar exam, depending on which state or, territory or, jurisdiction, the country, maybe the United States, maybe not, maybe another country. You're fighting to be selected now above everybody else interviewing for the job that you want. So again, you're taking on the system. You're still part of the legal matrix. See, it's moving you along. Okay. Remember this scenario. You got that thought, I want to go to law school. You're like, you got that itch. And then you're applying to law schools. You got that itch. Then you get the letter going, ooh, we kind of like you. We're going to accept you. Ooh, it's a bigger itch now. And you got to scratch it and scratch it and scratch it. And again, you get in. You're taking on your students, taking on the faculty, taking on the school, graduate, taking on the bar, passing the bar. Now you're taking on the whole world. You are. Because you are trying to beat somebody else for money and benefits and status. Because right now, until you have a job, you're just another Juris Doctor walking the streets. Okay? So now you've got that job. Now what? Well, let me tell you. Now you're taking on, you ready? You're taking on your fellow lawyers within your own firm. You're like, oh my God, it's like being in law school again. And it is. Because everybody's got to get billable hours if you're an associate. Yeah. You got to meet payroll. You got to bring in the big dinero. Okay. And everybody's competing for a piece of the pie. So they look great for the senior partners. So now you're taking on your fellow lawyers and you're taking on the law partners. And then there's the admin section. Okay. And then you're going to court, and what are you doing? You're taking on the court system. Clerks of court, deputy clerks of court, the judges' staff, the judges, until your head just spins. And so I went along, taking on the system, or I guess riding in the system, pulling me along in this legal matrix for so many years. And I was so frustrated at times. My head would absolutely just explode because there are just some stupid people in the legal matrix and the legal profession. They're dumb. They're stupid. They don't know what the hell they're doing. From lawyers to judges staff to other lawyers, paralegals, legal assistants. I mean, there are just damn dumb people in the legal matrix. And so essentially, as you continue moving forward in your legal career, you're constantly taking on a system. It never ends. And pretty soon, if you're not careful, it wears you down. I mean, it just wears you down. You get fatigued, you get tired, you start drinking, you start sedating. And it will happen if you don't know what to do. If you don't know how to fight it. See, this is what we're all about here at the Legal Matrix. We're here to fight the matrix. We're here to fight the system before it sucks you in and draws you in and destroys your life to where you're just, again, walking around like the living dead, having no soul purpose, no clarity, no focus, no impossible game. And in order to get your freedom, and that's what we've been talking about, that's what we're going to continue to talk about, getting free of the legal matrix, to be the leader in what you do, to beat out the competition, to lead by example. And you can't do that unless you take on the system. Now, years ago, I took on the system. Well, Bryce, how'd you do that? Well, I'm going to tell you how I did that. And this is how I did that. It was the way we elected our district court judges. And in my state, the district court judges, that's predominantly where 99% of legal business is done. Okay, it's probably, the appellate court is the most powerful portion of the legal system because they can always reverse the trial courts, okay, or affirm their decisions, stupid or not. At the trial level, if you're a trial attorney in litigation, that's where you are quite a bit of time. While your judges are either elected or appointed. Well, I took on the way we elected judges here in my state in the primaries. And it's a long story, I won't get into it, but the bottom line is it was a political hot potato. And it was. Because what they were doing, I'm like, oh, hell to the hell no. And so what did I do? Well, I'm going to tell you what I did. I sued. I sued the judge running for election. I sued his opponent to give him legal standing because he had a right. He had to be named in the lawsuit too. And he actually allied with me during this whole process. I sued the local board of elections, state board of elections. I mean, I sued. Ooh, did it piss some people off? You betcha. I'm like, I'm not going to take this. This is just not going to happen. What's going on? And so I took on the system. And then what happened? Ooh, the system bowed up. They're like, ooh, somebody's created a disturbance in the force. I'm like, you damn right I did. You bet. People say, why are you doing this? I said, because I can. Because I can. And that started a 3-year war. Now, during this war, some people knew I was right. Clearly, as a matter of law and constitutional law at that, but they were afraid to speak up. They're like, no, I can't say anything, dude. I can't openly support you. You know, the judges will just, no, I'll lose everything. I'm like, oh, okay, you want to change, but you don't have the cojones enough to stand up and do what needs to be done. Well, I do. And so when we eventually went to some hearings, oh man, they converged on me like piranha on a fresh piece of beef, man. The piranha all came out, the legal piranha. I didn't back down. And the trial judge, oh, let me tell you about that. He just rallied against me. And what had happened was they all had colluded before even the hearing, which you're not supposed to do, but they did. And dismissed my lawsuit. I'm like, oh, hell to the hell no. I appealed. And went through the appeal process, and they tried everything. And I just would not surrender. I would not give up. I said, hell no. I'm going to take on this system. I'm going to do it because I can. And I put my money where my mouth was. And I said, I can do this, and I will do this. And, of course, during the pendency of the appeal, the state legislature changed law, which corrected the problem. And then they tried to say, well, Bryce's lawsuit is already good because the problem's been cured, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, because there may be judges holding office out of this election scheme that are illegal and they all need to be removed. Shivers down the spine. Well, they knew I was right, but they weren't about to do that because in every judgment that any judge that was elected out of that primary that year or, 2 years before when this all started, everything would have to be set aside because the judges would have been holding office illegally. Okay, that was the whole thing. The way they were elected, I was contending, was illegal and unconstitutional. Therefore, they shouldn't have been in office. And if they shouldn't have been in office, then every judgment, everything had to be set aside. And they're like, oh, man. So they threw me a bone, but then like, no, we're going to affirm the dismissal. And, it's been changed in the legislature anyway, so it's kind of moot. But the whole moral of this story is I took on the system. And by taking on the system, yeah, was I scared? Sure. Was I nervous? Yes. But there just comes a time in a man or woman's life when you just have to stand up and be counted. You have to atone for your sins. You have to seek redemption. You have to seek repentance. You have to live in truth. And once you do that, then you can move forward. And see, that's the thing you don't know about yet. You folks in law school, brand new lawyers, you don't have the energy or the strength really right now to see through the fog and to see what's out there because you're just too excited to be in law school. You're focusing on your grades and the bar exam. Then all of you that have just passed the bar, you're excited about getting your first job. And that's okay. But the problem is, this is what the problem is, you have now basically insulated yourself with deception and delusion because of your excitement. It's kind of like the first time you have your first date or you're dating somebody and you're so enamored by how beautiful or handsome they are and, oh, they're funny, okay, that you fail to see what a monster they really are. And it's not until either way in the dating season or you may eventually marry them and then you're like, oh my God, what the hell have I done to my life? And now you're going to take on the system, but this time it's going to be with the boyfriend, the girlfriend, or the spouse. Okay? So that's what's happening here, because when you enter the legal profession, okay, you are marrying the legal profession. You are becoming married to the legal matrix. They are plugging into you. And when you attempt to divorce them, because that's what it is divorce, to be free, all hell is going to break loose. And you have to be prepared on any given day to take on the system. It's not going to be fun. It never is fun taking on the system. But look what's going on in the world today. Look at how the court systems are being used as vehicles of vindictive litigation to oppress those who want to live and operate in truth. It's happening all over the world. That's what the courts are being used for. They're being weaponized. And you have to be willing. You have to be willing to stand up, be counted, and take on the system. If you go back in the history of our country, and I'm not saying it's all great, our founding fathers are not all angels and sinless. They weren't. But here's the great thing that they did do. They created a document called the Constitution that allowed me, you, all of us to take on the system, especially when the system is oppressive. And in today's world, in our country today, the legal system is oppressive. It's not supposed to be that way. Our governments are not supposed to be that way, at least not in this country. And you're going to come to a crossroads, and it's going to happen. It always happens, where you're going to be faced with a situation, a dilemma, a decision, to where if you're going to either have to take on the system, or the system's going to take you. Yeah. And it's going to be ugly. And then you're going to get to a point where, you may not be able to escape. See, that's the whole purpose of what we're talking about here. Freedom. Everybody's forgotten about the word freedom and what it really means. And in the legal profession, the matrix is it's an oppressor. It's what happens when you are not part of, the legal matrix. And I can't tell you what a horrible, horrible feeling it is when, you're in this abyss of nothingness, this desert, and you're wandering like Moses for 40 years. And you're just like, what do I do? What do I do? Well, it will come down. Think about history. Throughout history, everybody, bar none, who obtained their freedom had to take on the system. You can go back to biblical times, to Moses, when he took on the system against Pharaoh. Pharaoh was a system. You go through history, and anybody who was anyone who wanted freedom for themselves and everybody else, including their families, they took on a system. And the legal system, the matrix, it's a breathing, living, real thing. It's a monster. It's a Goliath. And at the end of the day, you have to be the David with the sling and take down Goliath. Or be Wonder Woman, okay? You have to do that. You cannot shy away ever when you're going to live and operate in truth. It hasn't been easy in my life in the legal system. There have been times when it was scary. It was scary. I lost sleep. And I would say to myself, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What decision do I make? I go back and forth and stay up all night and back and forth and talk to 100 people. But you know what? At the end of that day, You're the only one that can make that decision. Nobody else can do it for you. And when you take on the system, there may be some that'll join you. Most will not. They want you to do everything. And then they want to enjoy the spoils of victory with you when they've done absolutely nothing. So you've got some choices to make, and you got to choose wisely. Those of you, again, in law school, you've got to look down the road. Sure, you've got studies and exams and all that, but when you're not studying, you really need to look at your life and how you're living and what's going on in the legal profession and how not to be entrapped by the legal matrix. You have to be different. You have to be unique. You've got to be the standard bearer for truth and freedom in a legal system that around the world can just be so oppressive. It can take people's property, their kids, their lives. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. And you have to be a warrior. You do. You do. Your battles will not be won by guns and those type of weapons. Your victories will come in what you say, what you do, how you say it, or you'll live in the abyss of the matrix by what you fail to do, by what you fail to say. And failure, my friends, is never, ever an option. For you young lawyers that have started your new jobs or about to, you need to take a deep look, a real deep look. Who are you working for? What is your purpose? And who are you? Are you just another associate in the cog of the legal matrix? Where you're going to work there, work all these hours, hope to get bumped up to junior partner and then senior partner and have an equity share in the profits and sell your soul, because that's what'll happen. And you'll die 1,000 times. 1,000 times. If you get stuck in the matrix. And it's a death you don't want. You don't. It's a club you do not want to belong to. So I'm going to leave you with this tonight. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, who am I? Why am I here? Your solution to your freedom rests with you. There's nothing wrong with being a lawyer. Don't be just a good lawyer. Be a great lawyer. But live in truth and operate in truth. Make a difference. You need to run your own firm. You need to run your own show. You need to lead. Don't be a lemming going over the cliff with everybody else. Be willing to take on the system. Be willing to take on the system. Fight it. The system is and can be oppressive. Let freedom ring. Let it be your cry. Don't back down. Be a real warrior. Use the skill sets that you have. And the ones you have yet to develop, you'll learn with me. And it won't be by just this conversation tonight. You know what to do. You know what to do. Reach out to me. Work with me. Let's build an army of people that live and operate in truth so that we can free a world from the oppression of the system. Okay, it's been another great night. So listen up here. Think about what we said, what we talked about. You got some choices to make. Remember, always choose wisely. This is Bryce Denier signing off. Love and light, love and light. See you again next episode. Bryce out.